For anyone who didn't have to put up with me in the first initial session, my name is Ian Mullane. I'm the founder and CEO of Keepme. Keepme is an artificial intelligence platform that's utilized by customers in just over 8 countries now for revenue acceleration around the membership. So Keepme uses AI to understand patterns, behaviors, and identifies insights that operators can then act of. I do have a small element of fitness credibilities as well. I was the founder of Vanda.fit for 12 years up until last year out in Singapore. So whilst I am based in the UK today, the majority of my team is actually based out in Asia Pacific, and I am a frequent visitor, having lived there for over a decade myself.
Thanks, Ian. All right, so welcome, Hema. I think perfect. We just started. Only Ian has introduced himself, but I would be introducing Hema before I let her take over the moderation. So Hema is the General Manager of APAC for MINDBODY, and it is the leading technology platform in the wellness industry. So she has, in her last 20 years of experience in various industries, her passion and expertise is really in business building and scaling. So this will achieve sustainable growth and success. And I think, to achieve sustainable growth and success, we definitely need a good retention and engagement strategy, which is the topic of this panel. So Hema is the perfect person to moderate this panel, and I'm really excited to hand over the time to Hema. I would just be jumping in right at the end before the session ends to say goodbye, but Hema, please take over.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction, Jolene. Yes, it is one of my passions to see businesses thrive, because it's about community building, it's about jobs, it's about making the world generally a better place as well. And 3 of of the members today have all done some amazing stuff. I've done some research on you guys in the last 24 hours, so thank you for allowing me to do that. Thank you, Chris, Brad, and Ian for joining. I'm just going to start with the questions, and we'll just do a bit of a round robin and go from one person to the next potentially. So the first question, and quite pertinent at the moment, excuse me if I'm looking away, I'm just reading them on another screen, is how have the behaviors of your customers changed through COVID-19? Now, Chris, I'm going to start with you, because you're in a unique position with one of the largest PT studios globally. You sit across EMEA, Middle East and Asia Pacific. You've been in the industry for a long time, and you're hyper connected across the world with this. How has this, going back to the question, how have the behaviors of your customers in particular, being in the PT sector, changed through COVID-19?
So I think, along with all of us, there's the uncertainty that we see globally, and there's definitely a focus on cost and the factor there that our clients need to consider. With a premium service and personal training, we've always focused on the value that we deliver, and I think that's essential that we continue to focus on that, and the operators really deliver and over deliver moving forward, so that the dollars a pound spent are maximized, and the clients feel value. That's meant that we need to have some flexibility and introduce new pricing models. And there's also an interesting aspect that the clients have really started to heighten their priority for their own health and fitness. And I'm hoping and I'm seeing that, broadly speaking, more and more people are taking their health as a priority. And obviously for the industry, as gyms play a massive role in that, and the products that we all are able to offer. So I'd like to hope and think we can be a big part of supporting that, and the COVID-related benefits, and of course the general well-being that is associated with what we all do.
Indeed. Do I have a personal trainer, and it's funny, in Australia, the easing of the restrictions has meant, we haven't been very strict, gyms have closed. However, we can train in the park, but quite frankly, it's what's kept me going over the last 3 months. Otherwise, I think the refrigerator needs a special thing to say, keep it closed all the time. But talking about engagement in particular, Chris, you've had to be more participatory as a firm, and your trainers have had to do that. Can you give us some examples on how you might have done that? Is it through Facebook, or is there more WhatsApp engagement going on?
So we've always aimed to have very regular contact with our clients. In the service that we provide, there's a lot of support in the nutritional aspect, which requires often daily contact. But we've also then explored more on the community side with such things as Facebook groups, as you mentioned, on especially some of the clients that are undertaking the virtual sessions. As with many of us, we've had to move onto the virtual sessions we delivered for the one-to-one service. And what has been interesting also is some clients have been able to increase the frequency of sessions because of the virtual sessions, because we've taken out the commute, the travel time that was there previously to come to a physical location. So while there are obviously negatives to this overall situation and what's possible with virtual sessions, it does open up a market and potentially increase the frequency what certain clients will be able to do, especially once we get back to the gym. We may be able to complement face-to-face sessions with virtual sessions.
So at MINDBODY, we have a pretty big research arm, is the biggest in the world, being who we are, with our, just under 100,000 customers now globally. And 47% of consumers surveyed said they'd like to continue with the online virtual classes, and that's been supporting our virtual wellness platform. We're seeing the uptake to be phenomenal. 47% is big, and I gave this as an example the other day. We saw one Victorian studio, which is a state in Australia, have 1,000 attendees attend their classes from across the world. So we're seeing some incredible things. So I'd like, that you've hit the nail on the head. Brad, doing what you do with Ritual, I love the model, the 30, is it a 30-minute workout that you have? In and out, 10
about 20 minutes,
class.
Yeah.
I love that. Tell me, how have you evolved, and how have your customers in particular evolved through this COVID phase?
Yeah, I think a lot of our clients have started to take health and wellness and fitness to a deeper level to them, instead of just, I know I'm supposed to work out, or this keeps the gut from getting too big. I think, with the whole health scare and understanding strong immune systems and beyond just the health benefits, we've heard a lot of people say, I didn't realize how much that gym time meant to me and to my personal headspace, and, self-care, self-love, just that time to yourself. I think a lot of people have become aware when that went away, how impactful that is to their mood, and, they feel good about themselves, and the discipline gains momentum in other aspects of their life. So we got a lot of comments early on, like, wow, really missing the gym. And then, we pivoted and launched our Ritual Anywhere app and got that out, and a live stream service as well. And the take up has been actually way, way bigger than I thought, and really thankful customers around the world. Like, genuinely, I needed this. I just can't find the motivation to just go work out by myself. I needed some sort of a hook, some sort of engagement to keep me going. And we listened and, and tried to fill that gap as much as we could without having the ability to bring them into our space.
Absolutely. You know what's quite, the day that the lockdown was announced in Sydney, I went to a park which is quite in one of the harbourside parks, and I thought, gosh, as a business head running the biggest software company in the world that does what we do, it's a worry. It's a big worry when the industry pretty much was flatlined, literally. But I saw 17 groups of 10 personal training classes at the gym. I called Rick Stallmeyer that afternoon, and I woke him up and I said, we're going to be fine. We're going to be busier than we actually anticipated, and all of our customers, being you guys, will be busier than we anticipated. The impact over the last, the engagement factor that we found in terms of Instagram and Facebook has just tripled considerably over the last many months as well. So I'm sure you're feeling that too. It's a good seg for the next question. I'm going to, Ian, this is right up your alley, especially as you help businesses grow their revenue. And we see the patterns that happen in businesses, so we really admire what you're doing. Is what must businesses now map out in their customer journey to deliver hyper-personalization, optimal engagement, and best-in-class service?
I think that the industry needs to stop paying lip service to it in the first place, would probably be the first thing. Let's be fair. There has not been the level of attention to retention as there should be. If there was,
I agree.
We still wouldn't be dealing with 40% of members leaving year on year, and it has been the same. Always of amusement that every year we see this growth in market which occurs, and yet we are still seeing the same quantity of people coming out. So What businesses are going to have to try and change is their overall approach over the next few months to make sure that they balance what will be truly a necessity, which is the pre-sale period to get members back into their organizations, but to make sure that the back door is firmly locked around good engagement, solid product, and a great understanding about what the member will want. Because any organization currently that is performing well in these areas is likely to come out of this crisis disproportionately stronger than those that have done nothing but pay service. Now, I'm going to, if I can, just with Brad on here and use Brad as an example. When you are a ritual customer, it is a passion for the brand and the overall experience, which means that not only will you engage with, in their case, a very strong digital product, but also that you'll want to continue with that. You're supportive of that. You will have a willingness to understand that maybe not everything will be perfect in the opening weeks that they're going to go through. But if you've got that deep intrinsic engagement with those members, they will forgive you so much. They will work with you, they will support you, and they will make sure that your business continues. Why? Very simply, because they've got a vested interest. They don't see it as a consumer brand experience. They see it as part of their day in, day out life, and they don't want it to change. So organizations need to move from it being something we sit and talk about to actually taking deliberate action day in, day out, and they will benefit from that. They will definitely benefit from that.
Indeed. Do you know what we've, going back to what we're all doing here is a retention strategy. And it's quite fascinating. So we have a marketing suite product, and you could actually communicate. Say I go to a Pilates class every Wednesday at 6 o'clock, and I haven't been for 3 weeks. There's an ability to communicate with me, as you all know, and say, hey, Hema, you haven't been in. Would you like to come in with a friend? Or would you like to use this 20% discount if you're a drop-in customer? Do you know our adoption of that is so limited because everyone's been feasting. And in the times of feast, you don't have to think about when the famine's coming around the corner. So there's so much information that's out there. And I do think there's going to be a crucible effect. The modeling out that we've done is seeing the effects happen, and it's going to be a longer, protracted exit out of the market for many players that, quite frankly, have gotten in quite accidentally, and it's just that funnel. The funnel's being filled up at the top, but they're not keeping the funnel. The most successful businesses that we're seeing, and our algorithms are phenomenal, but we're also very much in touch with all our, particularly our mid-market customers and, of course, our strategic accounts, is that community engagement. If you're in a community situation, you're engaging in that manner, you are going to keep your people within your brand. And Brad, I saw some of your reviews, funnily enough, about someone saying, thank you so much for just changing my life by offering me something that's going to make a difference in 20 minutes. What are your views, moving on, just to talk about what are some of your big strategies that you would recommend for folks out there listening in today?
So we realized quite early on that, fitness is a very strange thing to sell and package, just moving of the body. Like, we rent a space and then rent it out to other people for small segments to sweat in, and then we clean it up. Like, that's a very hard thing to make sexy and bold and, put big multiples on. So the only way we saw to really differentiate ourselves is to it's service. And it is putting, if you walk into a big box Globo gym 20 years ago, there's 5,000 other people there. No one knows who you are. There's no customer service experience. And we just wanted to go the opposite way. So we created an ethos, and you can ask any, from cleaner to head coach in any gym in the world, what's the #1 objective of Ritual? And it's to make our customers 30 minutes at Ritual the best half hour of their whole day. And we just make that an overriding policy and goal for everyone, because it's very hard to pinpoint in a strong brand what makes it stick to people, what makes it different, what makes customers engage. It's not one thing, because to you it will be this, and to Ian it'll be that, and to Chris it might be these 3 or 4 things they like. So if you just put a broad spectrum of putting the client first at all costs and making them have the best experience, give them results, treat them fairly, good things will come. So, we realize that from LA to Brazil, our customers.
Personalization. Sorry, Brad. Sorry. Say that again. I missed the last 2 minutes.
Bit of a lag there. My point was every customer is different, and if you want to get a broad swath of clientele, you have to just have a firm belief that we just have to do it better and care more than everybody else, and we'll be the ones who will come out on top for that reason.
That's great. Thank you for that. I've got some questions coming through as well, but we'll leave them to the end. I've got a question for both. Actually, Chris, this is a good one for you to start with. Is what kind of technology are you using at the moment, and how are you actually using technology? Are you on Zoom? Are you using Facebook Live? Is it behind a paywall? Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Sure. So we've used various video calling services to deliver our sessions, whether that be Zoom or through Google Meet, whichever is most suitable for our clients. And there's various benefits with different ones depending on who we're working with. And that has worked well. I guess we've all got Zoom fatigue to a certain extent, I think, at the moment. So we're all very familiar with this concept. And it's a case of we've offered a mixture of our paid one-to-one virtual sessions. We've offered free content on Instagram. We have done private client-only mobility classes, for example. So we've looked to cover different options, and explored and used this as an opportunity to introduce new products, but also to try and build the community aspect through that regular touch point. Obviously, the market is fairly crowded with the free content, but we're obviously maintaining our brand approach and style with what we deliver, so that allows us to continue to put our message out there. And as we've talked about, then as people get back hopefully to some form of normality in future, then these virtual options will hopefully still remain. And I think also, for those who maybe don't travel into the CBD as much, and then also for business travel, we've had quite a lot of feedback for clients that wants to get back on the road. This is something that they do want to utilize. I think that's an interesting place to look at. In terms of tech, then we are also heavily working on app development as well. So, Brad touched on earlier, we talked about his app, and that's a huge benefit to have. It's something that we have been aware of the importance for some time, but this situation has obviously accelerated that significantly. So we're very close to launching our own app as well in that space.
Do we've got some historical data on this. We've been trying to talk about virtual wellness platforms for such a long time, saying offer it, and this is some of the other stats that came out of our machine as well. So I, for example, used to travel a lot, used to being the operative word, and it's always Yoga Glow or not Gaia so much, but it's a subscription service. It's I think $29 a month or something, but I wasn't committed to it because it's not about it's a great product, fantastic. It was about my teachers. It's about my Pilates instructor. It's about that going and carving out that time for myself. But I'm anecdotally speaking, and we're getting some numbers behind this as well. I'm doing 20% more classes because all I have to do is go from where I'm sitting at home, where my office is right now, to my rug to work out. So it's not that prohibitive. And going back to what you said before, it's more accessible for folks as well. So we would definitely encourage, with that 47% response back from the hundreds of consumers that we surveyed wanting to continue with this, we'd encourage that for everyone to hop on that. Ian, what are your views on this, on technology? I mean, you've been doing this for a while. How do you think this is going to change the way business owners, they can't be tone deaf anymore. They need to start talking about retention as opposed to that empty funnel effect that happens. What are your views on this, and what would you say to look out for moving forward?
I would suspect that business owners are going to try to do more with less going forward. I think that the whole cycle that we've been through has probably improved operational efficiencies quite considerable. They've realized what works and what doesn't work. They've found where maybe they had excess within the business, so there's the reallocation of resources to other areas of the business which may provide more value. And I think that technology is clearly going to be able to help in that particular area. I would suspect that many will look at the investments that they have made and look to see how they could get more out of them. So just like we're more likely to try and do more with less with our people, we're likely to do the same with our technology as well. How can we make sure that we're insulated in shocks? They're insulated against shocks like this to a degree by utilizing our technology. Work, and I referenced this when we were on the keynote, but work we did in the early stages of this looked at the social media activity of organizations. And in the initial few weeks, the top 25 organizations looked to engage less. They posted less and they put out less content to their members than they did beforehand. Now, you get asked the same first question you get asked, why do you think that is? Well, I actually think because the social media manager was probably furloughed, right? There wasn't anybody within the business to actually engage during that period of time. That's probably one of the reasons why. But I think that there was the capacity. Now, if we treat this like a black swan event, we treat this as something which should be once in a lifetime. But I think in all probability, we've got a strong likelihood of recurrence this year. And we would be foolish if we didn't ask ourselves the question on an annual basis, if this happens this year, what would we do? What would the P&L look like? What would the balance sheet look like by the end of it? But more importantly, if this happens again, can someone dust off the COVID thing and make sure that we are using the technology to consistently engage with our members? Who has the responsibility? What's the content and the tone that needs to be utilized during this period? Has responsibility for making sure that the digital platform is ramped up because it's going to have 3 to 4 times the actual capacity necessary for those things. So the technology as a whole should be a cornerstone of the business to make sure that it can do more with less on the human capital and utilize its human capital for what is the most important role that anybody plays in the fitness, and that is physical engagement with the members. One-to-one engagement, personal engagement with the members. And us as technologists, us as providers, whether you be Keepme or whether you be MINDBODY, we're there to provide that capacity to do so by allowing you to leverage your technology assets to make sure that the fundamentals are happening so that your people can be doing the added value.
Indeed, make the technology work for you, not against you. And my advice to everyone right now, use the technology. It's so powerful. You know, what we see, it's like my iPhone. I think I use 10% of it versus what my 9-year-old niece might, use 40% of it. But it's quite fascinating to see how little of that technology that's available is being used. And the smarter players that are going to shine through the next many months are going to be the people that are actually harnessing what's available and asking people like us, come to your vendors and put us in front of a judging panel and say, what are you going to do for X? And that's the kind of engagement that I would expect from all our customers as well. Brad, what are your views on technology? How have you used technology? What in particular are you using at the moment?
So besides our app, we did launch a live stream service on ritualgym.tv where we integrate Zoom, which has worked out pretty well for us. We haven't had one of these atrocious Zoom bombings that you read about and see these horror stories about, which has been a fear of mine since the day we started doing it. But it's incredibly powerful. And we tried a few different models and kind of like you said with engagement, the secret sauce has been for us, put a couple of extra coaches behind a computer to watch the form and give feedback and a little banter and interaction before the session, a little banter interaction after the session. And, it feels like you're in the gym. You have your community thing. You're not going to slack off because someone's watching. You're held accountable. And it's been incredibly powerful. So, I mean, it's not going to go away either, which I think, your data says as well, 47%. And our anecdotal data and talking to our clients. And I was not a fitness app person. I'm a meathead. I go outside and throw barbells and kettlebells around, and I don't do Zoom yoga classes, but now I do. And I find it's very accessible. It's very easy. There's less friction for me to go there, less resistance and excuses not to do it. So
correct.
I think I think vaccine and all post-COVID world, it's been eradicated. I do think the norm has, we have this whole gigantic new funnel of consumers for our digital product. So, you know, you just have to stay out ahead of it and see what new technologies are coming and what you can bring in and what you can build. And sometimes you just have to throw a lot of stuff against the wall and see what sticks.
That's a barbell throwing and you coming out, Brad. I love it. Do you know
so.
what we've found with the Zoom bombings? Be very careful and what bit caution to the wind here. If you're running children's classes and it's not behind a proper paywall, I would avoid using Zoom. We've been advising this to our customers as well. That's another thing that's, you know, we're seeing this rise in children's classes and the participation rate because they're being homeschooled, they're doing classes with their parents, and that's again bond community in a greater way as well. So I love seeing the innovation that's happening in the industry that I never thought would innovate the way it did. I didn't come from a fitness background, so I had to learn along the way with amazing minds like yourselves teaching me. And obviously my leaders at MINDBODY, Rick has been in the business for 20 years doing this day in, day out. But it's fantastic what we're going to see. I call it the crucible effect. We're going to see some people that won't survive this, and we've already seen the numbers, and the ones that will hopefully adapt to the new technology in a manner that is going to grow their businesses. Now, I'm going to get to audience questions if you don't mind, because I'm just noticing the time right now. We've got 15 minutes more if I'm not wrong, Jolene. So the first question we have from, I don't have a name here. However, engagement is a two-way street. It is not simply a watch party where you can log into an online session. What are best ways we can really engage customers? So I'm going to go to Chris.
So I didn't quite hear all that question, but I guess from what I understood, how do we best engage customers when it's a two-way street, essentially?
When it's a watch party, so when it's a Zoom versus face-to-face, you know, the tactile nature of that versus being on a screen.
Sure. So it naturally has its challenges. And I think, you know, even in terms of when you're onboarding new clients, especially for a personalized service, then having a video call versus a face-to-face meeting, there are definitely differences. And I think that's a skill in itself that has to be learned and improved over time, that people can, you know, work on that. So, you know, interestingly, you know, personal trainers who are very, very good on the gym floor, some have struggled to then, you know, obviously explore how do I best deliver my quality of service, you know, and we can learn fast, we can support teams, and that those challenges can be addressed. But it's an interesting dynamic that, you know, depending on the support structure in place between companies and depending on the teams and the size and ability there, that people will have to adapt and learn quickly. And I think that's a general rule that, you know, companies will have to adapt, but also the trainers within those companies will have to adapt the skills required. Then in terms of some solutions, pardon?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, in terms of some solutions, I think then it's a case of, you know, how do you create that community? So I think having those sort of mini question and answers, almost like a little mini forum like we have here at the end of some session, that can work well, where especially about a one-to-one survey, you don't necessarily have that opportunity in the end of a gym session in the gym when more clients are coming into the next session. But can we be creative and have more group sessions that we can then deliver, you know, roundtables or, you know, open, you know, policy questions where we can provide more value and more support to our clients.
Yeah, that's really handy to know. Thank you for that. And I've got a big one for you here. Content. You spoke about content in particular during the pandemic and what we're going through it right now. Mm-hmm. Can you give us some case studies and samples on what type of content you're talking about? Because this really hits a nail on the head, right? You know, how do you keep someone like me, someone like all of us as consumers engaged with one particular exercise routine?
I think that there's no set rule, and let's face it, we're not living in a homogenous region either. So with that being a thing, then you need to tailor that to your individual markets. I think one of the primary things that you need to do is you need to stay authentic. You need to have empathy to the experience that your customer and your member is having, not what you as the business are. It also comes down to the way you communicate as well. There's a necessity to make sure that you are keeping people aware. You are demonstrating that you're aware of the challenges that they're going through, as much as that you are allowing them to understand the challenges which you may be going through, but where it impacts them. In any way, when I'm communicating with a customer, we need to understand that the customer does not care about us. They want to understand how what is happening to us impacts them, not how it's impacting us. And therefore, having an understanding of what efforts that you're putting in, having an understanding on what you are doing on your members and your customers' behalf is what's important. But to still keep it authentic and to still make sure there's empathy with the broader challenges that the actual market may be going through overall. There will be memes forever around errors and mistakes that were made during this period. There was multiple ongoing sales and marketing campaigns that did not cease because of their automation basis, which became quickly very inappropriate during that time.
Yeah.
So, just like when we talked about technology before, let us assume that circumstances like this could happen again. So from a marketing team's perspective, why don't we put into time, just like we would build the brand voice and we put what were our brand definitions in place, why don't we also put a small element of time into understanding the instructions that we would like to have to our communications teams during periods like this, to make sure that when they happen in the future, there are some rules broadly that can then be utilized to engage, to minimize the effect of, shall we say, off-message posts that can have, but in addition to make sure that we understand how to continue with the all-important engagement during what will always be a challenging period.
That's amazing. Thank you for that. I have a question from Linda Tang from WeBar. I don't know if you guys heard Scott Morrison, our Prime Minister, try to pronounce bar. Made in. You should check it out at some point. That was quite funny. I think he learned for the first time what bar and Pilates were. It was.
Okay, so I think Hema's connection is having some issues, but basically Linda asked, what's the percentage of your active members pre-COVID?
What percentage of your active members is for those active members? A bit of an anecdote is closing. So the gym that I advertised bikes, they put a post on Instagram. There's a queue outside Flow Athletic for people to pick up whatever equipment they needed to then work out from the house. So what these guys had thought about is they jumped, and Ian, I think they're planning to they're going to have a dual strategy, obviously, but that's the kind of initial with you. What do you think are the main barriers for those active members who still haven't? So Brad, may I? There's a bit of a lag.
Yeah, sorry, you're breaking up.
Can you hear us, Brad?
I think your connection's coming.
Sorry, Hema.
I think he can't. Sorry, it's between.
Yes, I can hear you now. Okay. You can ask Linda's
Can you hear
first
us,
question.
Jolene?
We didn't catch that.
No. Oh, brilliant. Okay, so what percentage of your active members pre-COVID have gone digital with you? What do you think are the main barriers for those active members who still haven't jumped over
What do you think are the
digital?
main barriers for those active members who
this is a question
still
for
haven't
Brad.
jumped over to embrace digital? So what percentage have gone digital, but what are some barriers that have stopped them from doing it? Thanks, Brad.
Yeah, okay, no problem. So we just from our app, the Ritual Anywhere app, we had over 5,000 members or ex-members download it within the first week. So there was a huge take-up rate, and that's probably 40% of the clients in the database that we sent it to. So that's a huge percentage and good retention and good return numbers to it. And I'm sorry, Jolie, can you repeat the second half of the question? I know it was what percentage of members came through, and then there was a second part.
The second part is what's the main barriers for your active members who haven't jumped over to digital with you, so who haven't embraced digital?
I think it is a lack of space or equipment seem to be the big key we hear. So, we've every time you start a Ritual Anywhere workout on the app, we ask you what equipment you have, because you might be in a hotel one day, you're home the next. So we ask what you have, and then it customizes the workout for you. But in Singapore, good luck finding a kettlebell if you want to buy one, or a set of dumbbells. They just don't exist, so people can't get them. So I think the big difference right now is people just they weren't set up for it at home. They're not used to it. They've never done it before. But it's, if they want to work out anytime soon, they're gonna have to embrace it pretty quickly.
So do you think that the main reason was equipment for Ritual?
Yeah, space and equipment to do it at home. Yeah.
Yeah. How about any additions from Chris or Ian on Brett's comment? That's an interesting question. Why people are not jumping online?
Yeah, from our experience,
I've got a quick one. Go on, Chris. Sorry, Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Just from our experience, then equipment's certainly part of it, and as you say, supply, is not quite where the demand certainly is at the minute. But we're also, I think, understanding what the virtual product is as well. It's overnight it was kind of like we've always had this one-to-one in the gym product, and now it's like virtual training. And I think we need to be able to explain that clearly. We also then need to give the clients an opportunity to experience that, because there's many benefits once you try it. Like most of us probably didn't train at our homes very much, if at all, prior to this. So we didn't even know ourselves how much value there was until we really gave it a good shot. Clients are similar. Some clients want to try and do it themselves for a period of time. I think we're balancing with these different dynamics before we can then get a higher engagement. But longer term, and especially if we repeat this cycle, I think that uptake will be higher.
Julian, I'll just add to that is the other aspect is expectation around quality. So in many cases, people will have had probably a expectation that the quality of the product delivered would not be at this stage to a standard that maybe they'd want to engage with. So for those that have put that investment in, for those that have put that effort in, you can't expect 100% adoption overnight for a vast quantity of reasons and equipment. But quality will always win out here, and what will occur over this period is word of mouth. Remembering that maybe personal engagement is less so at the moment, so less people are telling people about what they're doing than maybe they would do under normal circumstances, and word will get out around the quality offerings. Word will get out about the fact that people are enjoying an experience at home rather than in a bricks and mortar establishment, and because of that, the products which are quality, the products which have got the capacity to add value to their customers and their members will grow. And they will grow over the next 6 to 9 months into sizable proponents, probably as part of an overall membership, right? Rather than it being digital in itself, but they will grow overall.
Hema, are you back with us?
I am. Can you see me and hear me? I'm hoping.
You're good. All right, so
okay,
please go on.
Great. Infrastructure in Sydney, it's awful, guys. I'm so sorry about this. Apologies to everyone. It's just incredible. I wish I was sitting in Singapore. I do miss living there for that reason, and many others as well. I've got one more question, and I think this would be the last question just because we're aware of the time. What are your thoughts? This is from Richa Mishra. What are your thoughts on how can we ensure actual results with virtual trainings, as most of the people tend to lack motivation? This is a good question. I'd like to know what the panel do about this as well. So, Brad, did you want to go and answer that to start with?
Yeah, and this is one of the reasons that we did launch these 2 new digital services, because we polled all of our members around the world, and it was fairly split between I just want an app and I can just do it on demand whenever I want. I pick my time and I do it. And the other half of the boat was going, not a chance. I'm going to use that app. I need personal accountability. And these are a lot of clients who may have come from personal training, and that's just they've just admitted to themselves, like they need that hook and they need someone, you know, making sure they get back on the weights and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and it's not 3 more breaths, they get back on it. So you've got to tailor to both parties. You know, so some people are self-starters and they just hit the app, follow the program, and get it done for the day. And, you know, part of that process is you have to educate your consumers, which is something I know Chris and UP do very well. Like when people understand the science and how you get results from everything from HIIT to how to properly act and engage muscle groups, like education helps people do more than just show up. When they understand, you know, how much output and how much rest intervals make a difference, it makes people understand and engage a bit more and try a bit harder and get better results. But most people, when they start their fitness journey, they're just showing up and kind of getting through a session. And then, you know, as you put more content and more knowledge in front of your consumers, they get it a bit more and they kind of become a little bit more self-reliant.